The first mistake wasn't the call itself. It was the fact that Glarg, Junior Communications Officer of the Galactic Alliance's diplomatic relay hub, had been trying to play Holostacker 3000 under his desk while routing a high-priority transmission. His supervisor had warned him about split-focus tentacle dexterity, but Glarg was confident. Until his third tentacle slipped, the game piece fell in the wrong place, and his elbow tapped a code that absolutely did not belong to the Krontax Empire's secure channel. Somewhere far below, a tiny blue and green world blinked to life on his holo screen. Glarg froze. A computer? That wasn't the Krontax, was it? The AI interface, speaking in its default dry tone, replied, "Negative. You have initiated contact with Sector 43, Gamma, colloquial designation Earth. A pre-fusion, pre-interstellar society. Their signal latency is embarrassing." Embarrassing latency turned out to mean that after sending the formal first contact greeting, an elegant three-harmonic tone, followed by a peace glyph, the only reply for 37 seconds was static, and then a man in a sleeveless t-shirt wrestling an alligator. On Earth, the transmission didn't hit the Pentagon or the UN first. It hit the wrong end of a shared fiber-optic line in Florida, where Doug Gator King Jeffries had been live streaming from a swampy backyard. His audience of 17 people ballooned to 6 billion in about 40 seconds. Meanwhile, tucked away in a dusty corner office at NASA, Casey Vega was trying to decide if burnt Pop-Tarts counted as breakfast or as a cry for help. At 34, he had the distinction of being NASA's Emergency Public Relations Officer, a position created after the Mars water was just a coffee spill incident. Casey wasn't supposed to deal with alien first contact. He was supposed to handle bad press when an intern tweeted about UFOs. His phone rang. The caller ID read National Security Council in a font that made his stomach drop. "Vega," came the voice of someone who had probably never smiled. "We've got a situation. Someone or something just called us. From space." And the first thing they saw was a man wrestling an alligator. Casey took a bite of the Pop-Tart. That's pretty on brand, actually. By the time he was ushered into NASA's main comms lab, the alien's message had been routed, recorded, and badly auto-translated by a decades-old linguistics algorithm designed for decoding ancient Sumerian tablets. The formal alien greeting had become, "Greetings, meat-based life forms. I come in peace and or lethal retribution." Casey leaned over the console, eyebrows up. "That's, a little mixed in tone, don't you think?" "Best we could do on short notice," said Dr. Salazar, the linguist on duty. It was either that or greetings, moist sacks of carbon. The alien, greenish, big-eyed, slightly shimmering like a heat mirage, appeared again on the screen. It bowed, then straightened and waited. Casey could feel everyone in the room looking at him. "What?" he said. "You're the PR guy," Salazar whispered. "Oh, come on," but it was too late. The microphone light turned red. Casey cleared his throat. Hi there. Welcome to Earth. I'm Casey Vega, speaking for the human race, I guess. And, yippee-ki-yay." It slipped out before he could stop himself. Years of growing up on late-night die-hard marathons had wired his brain so that under stress, it defaulted to 80s action movie lines. The alien's huge eyes brightened. It tapped a console, and secondary AI voice translated back. "Ah, the great warrior McLean speaks. We are honored by your presence." Casey mouthed silently, "McLean?" The alien continued. "We have long heard legends of your exploits against towers and thieves. The Krontax Empire will tremble to know you lead this world." Across the lab, a dozen government employees stopped breathing. Yeah," Casey said slowly. "That's me. John McLean. Leader. Sure. Why not?" He was already imagining the classified report. Earth's first contact initiated under false pretenses due to pop culture confusion. The alien, introducing himself as Glarg of the Galactic Alliance, explained in the most diplomatic tone possible that they had intended to send an urgent message to the Krontax, apparently a galactic power known for settling disputes with plasma bombardments, but due to what he called a minor navigational frequency mishap, the message had come here instead. Casey's instincts prickled. "So, you meant to call the galaxy's biggest bad guys, and you got us instead." Glarg tilted his head. "In your cultural terms, yes. But dial." Casey glanced at the senior NASA staff, who were staring as if the wrong word might cause a meteor strike. The room smelled faintly of ozone and panic. "Okay, Glarg," Casey said carefully, "so now what happens?" The alien seemed to hesitate, then squared his shoulders, or whatever the alien equivalent was. Protocol dictates that any accidental contact still requires official recognition. Thus, the Galactic Alliance will send a diplomatic envoy to meet you, Leader McLean. This will prevent misunderstandings. Casey nodded slowly, aware of the enormity of what he was agreeing to. Right. No misunderstandings. We're big on that here. In truth, humanity had plenty of misunderstandings. They had daily misunderstandings about Wi-Fi passwords, recycling bins, and whether Die Hard counted as a Christmas movie. Now they were about to have them on a galactic scale. Before the call ended, Glarg added one more thing. Oh, and is it true that your planet's defensive strategies involve alligator wrestling? Casey swallowed a laugh. Absolutely. It's our first line of defense. The alien's image flickered and vanished, leaving Casey staring at the empty comms feed. The room was dead silent until Dr. Salazar finally muttered, "Leader McLean?" Casey rubbed his face. "Yeah. Don't tell the president. Or anyone. Just roll with it for now." Somewhere out in the black, beyond the moon and Mars and the tiny dreams of humanity's space program, the Galactic Alliance was preparing to send an official delegation to Earth, under the impression that its leader was an unstoppable action hero. And that, Casey thought grimly, was the second mistake of the day. The first had been answering the call. I kept the narrative tight, with Glarg and Casey fully introduced, the central conflict set up, miscommunication, mistaken identity, alien delegation incoming, and a satisfying yet teasing ending that pushes naturally into Section 2. 3 days later, Nevada's sky tore open over the Las Vegas Strip. It wasn't the apocalyptic kind of tear, no fire, no screaming, but a shimmering oval of heat light that expanded until it hung above the neon skyline like a soap bubble dipped in a rainbow. Traffic didn't even stop at first. This was Vegas, after all. People assumed it was an art installation, a new Cirque du Soleil stunt, or maybe a hallucinatory side effect from last night's tequila. Only when the shimmering bubble peeled apart and a colossal shape emerged did the slot machines go quiet. Casey stood on the roof of the Bellagio with a pair of binoculars that cost more than his first car. Beside him, General Hawthorne muttered into a radio about crowd control and classified optics. Casey had been flown in the night before under the official title of Lead Earth Liaison to Extraterrestrial Entities, which sounded dignified but mostly meant babysitting aliens in a city where even bachelor parties required a security deposit. The ship was unlike anything human engineers would have dared design. Instead of sharp angles and steel, it looked grown rather than built, a living organism plated in iridescent metal, with tendrils curling like giant sea anemones. Its hull glowed faintly with symbols that flickered between colors. As it descended, the strip's power grid spiked so hard half the casinos went dark. "They're landing in the middle of Las Vegas," Casey said flatly. Hawthorne didn't look away from the sky. They picked the coordinates. Apparently, it's the brightest thing they could see from orbit. Casey sighed. "Great. Our first official interstellar meeting is happening 2 blocks from a store that sells glow-in-the-dark cowboy hats." The alien vessel settled with an elegance that mocked Earth's clumsy rockets. A ramp unfolded, and 3 figures emerged. Casey recognized Glarg immediately. Same green shimmer, same posture that screamed, "I'm trying to look official, but I forgot my briefing notes." Behind him came a taller, armored alien with jagged plating across its shoulders, scanning the crowd like every face was a potential assassin. And floating slightly above the ground was a spherical drone with 2 wide camera lenses where eyes should be. "Vega," Hawthorne said, "you're up." Casey straightened his jacket, took a breath, and strode forward into the open plaza where tourists, police, and about 100 people live streaming on their phones formed a loose semicircle. He kept his smile casual, just a man greeting alien dignitaries in front of a giant flashing billboard advertising $2 margaritas and all-night karaoke. "Leader McLean," Glarg said warmly, bowing again. "We are honored to be welcomed to your command city." Casey bit back a correction. "Las Vegas," he said. "It's kind of our cultural capital for certain types of recreation." The armored alien stepped forward, voice low and metallic. "I am Tkala, security chief of this delegation. This city pulses with weaponized light. Does each tower conceal artillery?" No," Casey said. "That's advertising." The drone rotated slowly, its synthetic voice breaking in. "Zib here. My translation matrix has cross-referenced your broadcast archives to improve accuracy. Also, may I say how you doin'?" Casey blinked. "Is your translator quoting Joey from Friends?" I have absorbed your media, Zib replied. Your sitcoms are an exquisite mixture of emotional dysfunction and poorly timed entrances. Educational. They began walking toward the Bellagio's main lobby, tourists trailing them like a curious parade. Glarg kept pace beside Casey, his tone hushed. Protocol suggested we open with a ceremonial duel to demonstrate mutual respect. However, our research revealed your warriors prefer physical contests in ringed arenas. Casey's stomach sank. You mean wrestling? Yes. The holographic archives labeled WWF are extraordinary. Would such champions honor us with a demonstration? Casey pictured Hulk Hogan in a headlock with an alien. I think we can arrange something. The demonstration ended up being a front-row visit to a professional wrestling show just off the strip. Under flashing lights and deafening cheers, costumed wrestlers slammed each other into padded mats while Glarg took meticulous notes. T'Challa leaned forward like a general studying an enemy's war strategy, occasionally nodding in approval. Zib offered running commentary in the style of 90s sports announcers. When one wrestler executed a flying elbow drop, Glarg whispered, "Such agility. Truly, your champions are unmatched." Casey didn't have the heart to explain it was staged. After the match, the delegation was ushered to a private casino lounge where waiters brought trays of tacos, Casey's idea, mostly to distract them from discussing weapons technology in front of live microphones. Glarg examined the first taco like it was a dangerous artifact. This, Glarg said slowly, is war food. Casey's brain scrambled for a response. Sure. Packed with fuel. Vital for our combat stamina. Glarg nodded gravely. We shall note this for the Alliance records. The problem was nothing in Vegas stayed private for long. Someone in the crowd had been streaming the taco conversation to a fringe alien language forum where phrases like Earth's legendary war food were already trending. Across the galaxy, the Krontax Empire intercepted the broadcast. Two Krontax warlords reviewing the footage concluded that not only was Earth in alliance with the Galactic Alliance, but was armed with a mysterious, morale-boosting sustenance capable of empowering warriors. They immediately ordered a fleet to chart a course toward the blue planet. Back in the lounge, Casey was oblivious to this growing storm. He was busy trying to convince Glarg that a craps table was not a war simulation device. T'Challa, however, was unconvinced. These cubes, T'Challa said, watching the dice roll. They determine the outcome of battle. Not exactly, Casey said. It's more like chance. Chance. T'Challa tilted his head. Then your entire military doctrine is based on chaos. Casey smirked. You have no idea. The night ended with the aliens agreeing to meet again the following day to discuss joint operations, though none of them could agree on what that meant. As Casey escorted them back toward their ship, he caught his reflection in the glass of a casino facade. One man in a rumpled suit, walking beside an alien dignitary, a combat officer, and a floating sitcom quoting sphere. It would have been absurd if it didn't feel so real. At the base of the ship's ramp, Glarg turned to him. Tomorrow, Leader McLean, we will reveal our proposal for technological exchange. This meeting will define the next era for both our civilizations. Casey forced a smile, looking forward to it. He didn't know that far above them, beyond even the faint glimmer of the moon, a Krontax fleet was accelerating toward Earth. And somewhere on one of those ships, a warlord was practicing the pronunciation of a new battle cry, Yippee-ki-yay. That was going to be a problem. This section keeps the focus on advancing the plot, alien arrival, character interactions, cultural misunderstandings, and the seeds of a larger conflict, Krontax misinterpretation. It ends with a clear hook for Section 3, while deepening Glarg, T'Challa, Zib, and Casey's personalities. Do you want me to continue straight into Section 3, while keeping the pacing and humor consistent? By morning, the strip was a carnival of speculation. News vans clogged the streets, cable anchors shouted over each other, and a man dressed as Elvis was charging tourists $20 for authentic alien selfies in front of a cardboard cutout of the ship. Casey was halfway through his third cup of coffee when Glarg arrived for their scheduled talks, shimmering faintly under the relentless Nevada sun. T'Challa followed like a walking suit of armor, eyes scanning every rooftop. Zib floated between them, occasionally emitting what sounded like canned laughter. They had barely reached the Bellagio's conference suite when Casey's phone began to buzz. The caller ID flashed Hawthorne. He answered with a wary "yeah." "You need to see this," the general said. Seconds later, a live feed popped up on the suite's main holoscreen, grainy footage of a vast armada slicing through the black. Ships bristling with weaponry, engines burning like miniature suns. The Krontax Empire moving fast. Those aren't diplomats, Casey said quietly. Glarg's gaze darkened. They must have intercepted our broadcast. The tacos, the wrestling, they will believe you are a newly armed ally of the Alliance. The Krontax despise competition. Casey pinched the bridge of his nose. So they're coming here to start a fight over a plate of tacos. Kala's voice was low and certain. If they believe your people are capable of creating warriors who consume war food and fight in ritual combat, they will test you in battle. Is their way. Casey's first instinct was panic. His second was to hide it. We're not exactly ready for a galactic war, he said, pacing. We don't have fleets. We don't have plasma cannons. Hell, half our satellites barely work when it rains. Glarg straightened. Then we must make them believe you are too dangerous to engage. It was a ridiculous plan, but in Vegas, ridiculous had home field advantage. Within an hour, Casey was on the phone with every studio, stadium, and special effects company within shouting distance. The goal wasn't to build weapons, it was to make the Krontax think Earth already had them. The first step was broadcasting evidence of Earth's terrifying arsenal. Glarg's ship projected holographic feeds stitched together from decades of action movies. Top Gun dogfights. Rambo firing an endless belt of ammunition. Scenes from Starship Troopers carefully edited to remove the bugs and leave only the explosions. Every few minutes, Zib inserted ominous commentary in the Krontax trade tongue, translated loosely as, "Observe the fury of McLean's legions." Meanwhile, Casey took the delegation to a baseball game under the pretense of showing sportsmanship. The aliens watched intently as the crowd roared, assuming the bat was a ceremonial weapon, and the scoreboard a tally of enemy casualties. When the seventh-inning stretch began, the entire stadium singing, "Take me out to the ball game," Glarg leaned over and whispered, "Is this the Champ of Four battle?" Sure, Casey said. Things nearly went sideways when the kiss cam panned to Kala, who interpreted it as a formal duel challenge and began to unclip his armor. Casey barely stopped him before an entire family vacationing from Iowa got the shock of their lives. While the deception spread, the Krontax fleet closed the distance. Reports from the Alliance suggested they were demanding a face-to-face showdown, the kind their culture valued above all else. There was no avoiding it. The Krontax wanted to meet Earth's champions. Casey held a late-night meeting in the Bellagio's penthouse, pacing in front of a cityscape of neon and glass. Glarg stood by the window, hands clasped. Tkala leaned against the wall, silent. Zib floated near the minibar, quietly muttering Chandler Bing one-liners to itself. "They're expecting warriors," Casey said. "If we don't give them some kind of contest, they'll think we're insulting them." And then he gestured vaguely toward the night sky. Glarg tilted his head. "You are the leader of this planet. Choose your champions." Casey's laugh was short and humorless. "Leader? I'm a PR guy who owns too many VHS tapes." But even as he said it, he remembered the wrestling match, the ball game, the way Tkala had respected chaos as a tactic. Maybe, just maybe, Earth's unpredictability was the one advantage they had. "We'll give them a fight," he said finally. "Our way." Glarg's eyes narrowed. "And what way is that?" Casey smiled faintly. "The most entertaining one they've ever seen." By dawn, the word was out. Flyers circulated promising the Battle of Vegas, Earth's greatest warriors versus the Krontax elite. The strip transformed into a riot of banners, camera crews, and merchandising booths. Casey knew it was insane, borderline suicidal, but if the Krontax believed the spectacle, maybe they'd leave without firing a shot. Somewhere in the dark beyond the clouds, the Krontax warlord watched the human broadcasts, his clawed hand resting thoughtfully on the arm of his command throne. The images were strange, warriors in costumes, cheering crowds, music pounding like a heartbeat, but there was something in them that stirred a deep, primal recognition. "This McLean," the warlord murmured, "he knows how to prepare his people." The fleet adjusted its trajectory, heading straight for the Las Vegas Strip. Casey stood on the Bellagio roof again, watching the sky, his chest tight. Around him, the city hummed with energy, an entire planet holding its breath. The plan was madness, stitched together from movie cliches and showmanship, but if it worked, humanity might just bluff its way into survival. And if it didn't, well, he hoped the Krontax liked tacos. I kept Section 3 centered on escalating the main conflict, the Krone tax threat, Casey's bluff, and the setup for the climactic Battle of Vegas. It deepens Glarg, Kala, and Zib's dynamics with Casey while ending on a hook for Section 4. Do you want me to go straight into the high-energy Section 4 climax next? The Krone tax fleet descended over Las Vegas like a storm front made of steel and rage. Their ships blotted out the midday sun, casting the strip in a shifting twilight of engine glow and shadow. The lead vessel, a jagged fortress the size of a mountain, split open to release smaller craft that screamed toward the city in perfect formation. Each landed with a seismic thud along the boulevard, their armored ramps lowering to reveal towering figures in black and crimson armor. The Krone tax warriors moved with the precision of predators, their heavy boots making the pavement crack. Casey stood at the center of the temporary arena built overnight on the Bellagio's fountain platform, the whole thing bathed in a kaleidoscope of spotlights. The crowd, half human, half alien spectators from Glarg's ship, roared with anticipation. This wasn't just a battle, it was theater, and theater was humanity's home turf. Glarg approached, his expression unreadable. They will test your champions in ritual combat. If you lose, they will claim your planet. If you win, he hesitated, they will likely wish to recruit you. Casey adjusted his tie. Then let's make sure we win. The announcer, a Vegas veteran with a voice like a whiskey-soaked thunderclap, boomed over the sound system. Ladies and gentlemen, and interstellar beings, welcome to the Battle of Vegas. The fountain jets erupted on cue, framing the stage in arcs of water-lit crimson and gold. First up was a Krone tax brute the size of a small SUV, its armor etched with battle scars. Across from him, Earth's chosen contender, a roller derby queen named Rocket Rachel, pads strapped over her neon bodysuit, skates gleaming under the lights. The Krone tax charged like a battering ram, but Rachel sidestepped with a speed born from years of dodging elbows on the rink. She circled him in dizzying loops, throwing taunts over her shoulder until the alien stumbled, disoriented. One well-placed hip check sent him crashing into the fountain with a splash that drenched the front row. The crowd howled. Next came a warrior armed with a double-bladed plasma spear, his movements precise and deadly. His opponent, Johnny Blaze, retired Navy SEAL, lean and weathered, carrying nothing but a chili dog in one hand. The Krone tax lunged, Johnny dodged, casually offering the chili dog. The alien sniffed, took a bite, and froze mid-chew as his eyes rolled back. Seconds later, he collapsed in a blissful food coma. The announcer milked the pause before declaring, and the winner, by culinary TKO, Earth. By the third round, the Krone tax were wary. Their champion was a whip-fast duelist with 6 arms, each holding a curved blade. Across from him stood Brutus, the Anvil King, a WWF veteran in a sequin cape, flexing theatrically. The Anvil didn't try to match the alien speed. Instead, he ducked, weaved, and at just the right moment, produced a folding chair from somewhere and slammed it against the stage with an ear-splitting clang. The alien froze, startled by the noise. The Anvil seized the moment, roaring, "Brother," and executing a body slam so dramatic that even the Krone tax spectators erupted in shocked applause. Casey watched it all unfold, each victory stoking the crowd's frenzy. The Krone tax warlord himself now stepped forward, a towering figure in obsidian armor, eyes glowing like embers. "McLean," he growled, "face me." Every instinct in Casey screamed to refuse, but the eyes of the crowd, human and alien alike, were on him. He stepped into the ring, heart pounding. The warlord's presence was suffocating, his every movement radiating lethal precision. "I'm not a fighter," Casey said evenly, "but I am a showman." He raised his hand. On cue, the fountain jets shot skyward, holographic projections flaring to life, scenes of Earth's greatest cinematic battles. Aragorn at Helm's Deep, Ripley in the power loader, Neo dodging bullets, McLean leaping from Nakatomi Plaza. The holograms surrounded the warlord, each moving as if alive, each locking eyes with him. The effect was overwhelming, an army of legends, impossible to measure or predict. The warlord's steps faltered. He glanced at the crowd, at his own warriors, shifting uneasily. Finally, he dropped his weapon, his voice low. "You are dangerous." Casey held his gaze. "We're unpredictable. That's worse." A beat of silence stretched, then the warlord laughed, a deep, resonant sound. "You have won. Not with strength, but with chaos. We will not fight such a people. Instead, He turned to his fleet, raising one arm. "We will watch you." The chrome-taxed ships began to lift, their engines sending warm gusts across the strip. Above the noise, the warlord called down, "You will join the galactic games. Your planet will entertain the stars. And McLean, bring the tacos." Glarg stepped beside Casey, beaming. "You've done it. You've made Earth untouchable." Casey exhaled slowly, the adrenaline ebbing. Untouchable, or a permanent reality show? Zib floated up deadpan. Could this be any better? The crowd's roar was deafening as the last of the chrome-tax ships vanished into the sky. Humans and aliens mingled, trading stories, sharing food, posing for photos. In the middle of it all, Casey stood still for a moment, taking in the absurdity of it. 3 days ago, he'd been a PR guy with burnt Pop-Tarts for breakfast. Now he was, in some ridiculous cosmic way, the man who talked down a galactic war with wrestling, chili dogs, and movie magic. Glarg handed him a cold bottle of Mountain Dew, which Casey took with a grin. "Here's to Earth," he said, raising it. "To Earth," Glarg echoed, sipping carefully. His eyes widened. "This is war drink." Casey laughed, the sound lost in the din of celebration. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew the galaxy had no idea what it had invited into its fold. And maybe that was the real victory. Because if humanity was going to be part of the interstellar community, they weren't going to pretend to be civilized. Not for a second. This keeps the climax thrilling and self-contained. Earth's champions win in absurd, human ways, the chrome-tax are outplayed, and Casey secures humanity's place in the galaxy through chaos and showmanship, while delivering a satisfying HFY punchline.